I always like, I enjoyed the habit of it all.
Yeah, that's why I like smoking herb too.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
That's fine. We're good. Yeah. Never could get into it other than like college drinking. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, January 25th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Matt Belman. We're brought to you by Sleeper, and we have a 7-game slate ahead of us. Kind of a fun one because right now it appears I'm fading Joel Embiid, and that feels like an absolute disaster. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow us both on Twitter. How'd it shake out for you yesterday?
Oh, my lineup was like just out of the money in the big like milli maker, which is unfortunate to say the least. I pivoted and went to Amen Thompson, who our tools loved, and once the starting lineup came out, the tools didn't like him as much, but I didn't really have a way to pivot. So I played Wemby and Luka. They were obviously really good, but both very high owned. I did not play Sengun, so the overtime really hurt me there. It is what it is. You know, it's another NBA DFS slate. How about yourself?
Nothing good at all. Happy with my like post evaluation. Like all of my, my ROI was good in both sources, so I can't complain, but I did not make any money. Speaking of people on the bubble of that, he who shall not be named, former co-host of mine, was also sitting on the bubble in that milli. And whatever stat correction happened late kicked him into the money. So he was able to min cash. So he was pretty pumped about that.
Don't know who that is, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the min cashing that contest feels like a win just because of what that swing really is.
It shouldn't, but it is, because you should play all GBPs to win. But when you're playing like one lineup and something like that, I mean,
yeah. What's 100%. The min cash there? What was it? 2,500. So 4. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's like, that feels like to min cash is a win in those situations.
100%.
Yeah. So interesting slate today. Yeah. You didn't have that. You didn't have the stat correction for 0.75 to sling you into the money. You were probably the guy that he pushed out.
Yeah. No, also I played Bogdanovich from Atlanta, who is popular, but not very good. And you
wrong Bogdanovich.
Oh God, you were on that. Man, I know a lot of people played LaMelo. He busted. It was a weird slate.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll forget about it a couple days from now, if not later tonight. This one is fun. I go back and forth whether I like it when they cancel that late game. I feel like tonight would have been a good night for it. Just weird to see so many games on a Thursday. I'm not used to it.
I'm kind of excited for the way that we have news, because I'm only excited for the way that we have news if we get LeBron and AD before Sacramento, but actionable before Sacramento Golden State, because then it's not so bad. Then you have your options. You could work in Fox. You can work in Sabonis. You can get to Steph if you need to in those situations. If you don't get it till after that, I hope you really like Nikola Vucevic or something, because you're running out of options.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you're right, though. There is like another late game. It doesn't start at the exact same time, but presumably we'd think we'd have that news. I would at least like to hope.
I trust nothing.
Fair.
I trust nothing. Oh, sorry. I got to respond to chat. This is 2 days in a row now. Josh, I know it hurt to have Embiid on the thumbnail over Jokic, but we all know one's better than the other. Yes, I will take the reigning finals MVP. That's me.
Yeah, they're both so good.
Yeah, they're both fantastic. I hate
the discourse. Yeah, I hate the discourse always has to be like choosing one or the other.
Yeah, I don't like.
They're both amazing.
I think most teams are unquestionably taking Jokic in this scenario, because there's one thing that separates the two of them. No matter what you think about both guys as a player, Jokic is always out there and Embiid is not. And
yeah,
what's
the question?
Is major.
Are we talking about like
there is one?
I mean, is the question like who we're taking to start a franchise with? Then it's Jokic, because of everything you said.
Yeah.
If it's like, who am I taking in one game? It's still probably Jokic, but at least it's more of a question in my mind, at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to be very happy if I have the second pick in that draft too.
100%. Although it does feel like Embiid needs to win sooner rather than later, just because
Yeah. Yeah.
windows aren't long and his health concerns are real.
Are you smelling that? I'm smelling Patrick Ewing.
Interesting. Man, when I look at him, I think more like I get that. In a lot of ways, though, his dominance reminds me of Shaq.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's actually funny. I didn't tweet it and I don't know why. Maybe I was baked and I just like forgot about it because I pulled it up and I even took the screenshot. The Darko projection system also has charts that project your like overall plus minus for your entire career, big arc. And I was thinking about it after it was the night that Embiid dropped the 70 banger. And I was just like, oh, like I wonder what his peak looks like right now. And I popped that into Darko and looked at the chart. And Shaq's line is still above Joel Embiid's for like his peak career. And I was like, sometimes we forget what that dude really was.
Yeah, he was so dominant.
Yeah. Now, like, obviously, if you flip-flop those two dudes and drop Embiid into that exact same spot, he's going to do the same things to much worse competition. Just, I mean, back then, they were just like, all right, we need to hire, or like, we need to sign two stupid 7-foot dudes at the end of the bench to just go out there and hack that guy for, 8 fouls across two different dudes. That, like, they didn't have a choice.
It's funny because when I watch Embiid, like, he's not like that, but he just looks so much bigger than everyone else.
Yeah.
Like,
if he's going to keep shooting like this from mid-range, I don't know if there's anything. I heard Zach Lowe talking about it, and I thought it was like a really interesting. I think it was Zach Lowe. It could have been on the Simmons podcast. I don't know. I'll listen to too much basketball stuff. Where that Jokic gets the ball, top of the key, just the pivot point of everything. Everything's working off him. That's becoming Embiid. And now if he has the ability to just step into that 15-footer, he's shooting 50.5% from mid-range this season. That is 92nd percentile. 66% at the rim. Like this dude, it's just when he takes a shot, free throw line area.
He's an elite free throw shooter too.
Yeah, he's shooting 89% from three this year.
That's
from the line, obviously.
That's unheard of from like a dominant center like that. I mean, that is unheard of.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's awesome. If he's going to miss time, I hope he just does it now and we can just get it out of the way that he can't qualify, because the stretch of him getting to 65 games is going to be wild.
I don't think that's really what they were looking for when they made the 65 game rule. I was reading something interesting about that with Halliburton, actually. How, he's going
it's going to cost him money.
Yeah. And like he might have rushed back a little bit early. I'm not sure I can't remember where I read the same as you. Like I read and listen to a lot of this shit, but that like he seriously might have came back a little early and now they're shutting him down. Like he needs that 65 games is worth like what, 40 million or something.
Yeah. It's insane. Cause he's like a no doubt about it lock NBA player for this season if he's able to finish out 65 plus games. But I hate all of it. It's so dumb. It's just remove that. It's a poorly thought out idea.
And he's also an auto lock for Indiana signing him to the max they can yesterday.
Yep. They will not even think twice.
I really don't like it either. Yeah, let's get it.
Here we go. The Philadelphia 76ers. Interesting timing. 5-point favorites in Indiana, 239 total. This might be the dumbest injury report we've had all year. Tobias Harris, questionable with an injury with an illness. He did not go through shoot around. I don't usually read into that when it's an illness. We talk about that a lot on these shows where like, if a guy is sick, you're not going to go, especially if you're Tobias Harris, like a permanent mainstay of this team. He doesn't need to be at shoot around getting other dudes sick. Like I know obviously like he's going to get them sick in the game if he's there, but there's no incentive for him to do anything other than like stay back, take in fluids, relax, and then see if you feel better later in the day. So illness ones, I never really worry about whether or not that guy was at shoot around. But obviously if he was at shoot around, you'd feel a lot better about his status. Marcus Morris is still listed as probable on the injury report. It came out earlier today that he said it was unlikely that he would play, but apparently that hasn't meant anything for his injury status, although we took him out and the industry took him out. So as we look at Philly, 27% ownership coming into Joel Embiid, 11 coming into Tyrese Maxey, 8 coming into Tobias Harris. This is like a pretty dumb question to ask, but like, how you feeling about Embiid?
I mean, He looks amazing here. It's
Yep.
Indiana, smash spot. He's the highest projected player on the slate. I feel like it's just like we've read this story before type of thing. He's a great play. There are also other great plays on this slate. So DFS is a salary ownership game. He is getting more ownership or projected to get more ownership than he quote unquote should be, but
Yeah.
I don't care. Like if you want to make Embiid as your building block, do your thing.
Yep, I agree. Now, that said, I have a very small amount of Joel Embiid right now. I am getting to a bit more of Tyrese Maxey for two reasons. We'll get to that in a second. But me not getting to Embiid is me getting to a bunch more Anthony Davis, a bunch more LeBron James, a bunch more DeMontis Sabonis, a little bit of Bam Adebayo. So like I'm just reallocating my center to the other centers or like another pay up in LeBron, but like I would also really like to just have Joel Embiid. He goes out there and nukes every single team over and over and over again. The interesting thing was when I went through my build, I usually sit back down at like 3:15 to go through every team again and make sure I'm updating everything to the best of my ability at the time. The prop market is posting numbers on Embiid and Maxey as if Tobias Harris is not playing this game. Both of their points props were increased by 3 or 4 points over what they normally are. And I took that into account a little bit and bumped both guys. Somehow that didn't end up with me getting Joel Embiid. It did, however, end up getting me to Tyrese Maxey. Now, most of this will be meaningless. We're going to know this one no matter what at 7 o'clock. If Harris ends up in, I'll walk those numbers back. If not, maybe I do start to get Embiid at that point. But I think at this moment, I'm going to be getting to a little bit more Tyrese Maxey. We'll see what that ownership ends up looking like for him. Because if Harris gets ruled out, Tyrese Maxey's ownership is going up. There's only so much
100%.
more like Embiid's can go up. Like there's an upper bound to how well you can project him at this point where like you can't squeeze much more out of what you can only have 40% usage and 35% assist rates and 25% rebounding rates. You can only tweak that up so much when somebody steps off the floor before like you're just smacking into a wall of the most that anybody can do.
There's that, and then there's also the point that like Embiid is already really, really expensive, while
Yeah.
Maxey has seen a price decrease. So like,
yeah,
they both get bumps, but I think Maxey certainly looks like the better like points per dollar play, and opposite to Embiid coming in with positive leverage, which I mean, I like Philly a lot in this spot. Give me Maxey at projected to be under owned. I like that call a lot.
If we do get Harris out, seems like Daniel House is probably the guy that picks up enough minutes to become a value play. You can probably start thinking about some Kelly Oubre. Do you think anything else opens up for Philly if we lose Harris?
I don't want it to, but it is Indy, so I don't hate like the tertiary pieces from Philly if that's the case. But no one would be like a must for me except for maybe Maxey.
Yeah. Yeah, I will be very, very interested in Maxey. I will, and like, obviously everybody's permanently interested in Joel Embiid. The Indy side of this one has Tyrese Halliburton out. Jalen Smith questionable, which is a complicating factor for today. But everybody else is not on the injury report for the first time in a while. Now we have a little bit of ownership coming into these guys. 12% to Aaron Nesmith, 14 to Miles Turner, and 20 to Pascal Siakam. Let's start with Siakam. How's he looking for you at 7,100 today? But over-owned in our boom bust tool.
Over-owned, but not like crazy ownership, like 20% ownership. I'm fine with that. Like, over-owned, but there's plenty of places to even that out.
Yep.
He looks too cheap. I mean, maybe there's a little opposite of sticker shock looking at him and seeing 7,100. But he hasn't even been bad since playing with Indiana. Like, he's too cheap. So he looks like a really solid play here. How about you?
I like him. I'm dead neutral to the field right now. That price tag with Halliburton out. I expect Siakam to have some day if Halliburton's not around to just be more interested in just like taking over a spot. I assume he's trying to assimilate with the team as much as possible. You know, you feel like you want to be a part of the situation. You don't want to just come in and be this ball hog that was only here for 3 games. So I think eventually once he settles, you're going to see that like his rates start to creep back up and that price creep back up. But for now, I just want to capitalize on 7,100.
Yeah, actually, the more I look at this, like he's too cheap for his median outcome here.
Yeah.
And he's also way too cheap for his upside that we've seen a lot. It's not like if Siakam has 50, anyone's surprised at all. I mean, he did it a ton in Toronto, and his supporting cast right now is worse than the Toronto supporting cast.
Yep.
I don't know. He's way too cheap. He might be the most underpriced player on the entire slate, honestly.
What do you like with the rest of these guys here? Nesmith, Turner. Do you have your eye on anybody else?
No, I think Turner's probably also too cheap, but a lot of opportunity costs in the center position. Don't like the matchup with Embiid at all. Siakam, I think, is where you want to start with Indy. Yeah. I know McConnell's, coming in with nice leverage. If I were multi-entering, I'd be over the field. Only 6% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. I like that. But no musts. How about you?
I'm getting to a little bit of Nesmith. I think just, a price, an MPE of small forward, power forward. His minutes have been at the very least steady, if not even creeping up a little bit. So that I'm totally fine with in this sort of situation. Turner, I am getting to a little bit. I'm not surprised. 6,300. If he gets into a block party, it starts to look really good for him. The guy that I'm most interested in right now is totally based on whether or not Jalen Smith plays and if he's the backup center. 3,900 power forward center eligible, unowned, direct backup to Miles Turner potentially in this spot. If you knew he was just getting whatever minutes Miles Turner didn't play, he starts to become a very intriguing value option as a 1.05, 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy. The fact that he has that power forward eligibility is making me get to him a little bit. I only went to 16 minutes. We have him at 15 and a half. I actually have 10% of Jalen Smith at this moment. But if he ends up out, I feel all of the same things for Isaiah Jackson. 3,600 center only, a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy over the past 30 days. There's some value in the backup center, and it's not like you wouldn't be surprised if Miles Turner got into foul trouble against Embiid.
Not even a little bit. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if they both get into massive foul trouble. But at the end of the day, someone's going to play. So yeah, I'm with you. If Smith is out, I like Jackson. If Smith is in, I feel weary about it because this is like the second time the last game where he got hurt mid-game without even playing. But it is what it is. Like, doesn't mean it's going to happen today. So yeah, he's too cheap. Power forward eligibility. I get that. But I'd rather have him be out and play Jackson personally.
So would I. Because then you don't worry about competition. Right. It's just like there is only one other option. He is going to get every minute that Miles Turner doesn't play. I would prefer that option for sure. And no one's going to be like, if Jalen Smith gets ruled out, it's not like there's going to be a rush to Isaiah Jackson. That's not happening. No.
Especially center only.
Yeah. But 3,600, I kind of like it.
Same.
Anything else?
No, that's all I got from Indy.
All right. Easy stuff here. Schedule for the rest of the day. You guys know the drill. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next at 6 p.m. And I told you guys yesterday, and it happened. If you don't hit that like button, that screen's going black after the show. You will not be able to see it. You got to stay on this stream, but you got to hit the like button. We're at 1,300 people, 126 likes. If you're interested in NBA Live Before Lock, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And then make sure you use our avatar. Go to stokastic.com/avatar, click the link in chat or the one in the description. Grab that logo. Put it on DraftKings, FanDuel, Owner's Box, or Yahoo. You do that, you finish in the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entries, and you get 1 month of whichever package you want at Stokastic. If you're watching this show, I assume it's the Sim package. That's projections, ownership, the Boom Bust tool, which we will reference throughout this show. You'll get the contest generator. You'll get the Sim tool itself. You'll get the lineup generator. You'll get our premium Discord. Maybe you don't want this one. Maybe you want a different sport. At this point in time, that's kind of weird, but maybe you want to go to PGA or something. You could do that too. Anything you want, you get it for a month. All you have to do is tweet your result at StokasticHOF. We want to see your lineup. We want to see the contest that you were in. We want to show it off to everybody else, and that's what we need to see. You do that, and you get your free month. And it costs you nothing. You don't have to be a member with us yet. It doesn't cost you a single cent to download our avatar, but you have the opportunity to get a $200 value. Why pass that up? Well, the most popular team of the land today, the Utah Jazz, 7.5-point favorites in Washington, 245 total. Everybody is getting some heavy ownership for the Jazz, except for Akbaji, who must feel like really just So unpopular. I feel bad for him. They probably make him sit by himself and stuff. The other 9 guys that are in the rotation for the Jazz are all at least 10% owned. 8 of those guys are at least 20% owned. Just to read off these numbers, because at this point, it doesn't even matter who belongs to them. 40, 25, 25, 30, 10, 30, 30, 20, 20. Everybody from Utah is getting jammed today. We are also showing the entire Utah Jazz team as a negative leverage play. Now, that doesn't mean you can get away from them, because all of these guys, except for Keontae George and Agbaji, are also north of at least 12% optimal, upwards of 23 for Kelly Olynyk. The floor is yours here. What stands out to Utah? Because I assume everybody sees something.
It's really hard to just get away from Utah here.
Yeah.
It's also a little difficult for me to just be like, okay, this is the guy I like, or these are the 2 guys I really like. Utah plays a lot of guys, a lot of minutes. Like, a lot of these guys play similar minutes. I think it's a spot where multiple of them can smash. They're playing Washington. I think Olynyk, because of his price tag, stands out. Like, Olynyk and Dunn under 4K against Washington, like,
yeah,
those guys look like elite value plays, like cheap value plays. Sexton looks too cheap for his recent game log.
Yeah.
I think there's easier pivots away from him than there are Olynyk and Dunn.
I agree.
Similar to Sexton. I think Sexton and versus Clarkson is interesting, because I think if you told me one of these guys gets you 35 fantasy points, it's Sexton. But if one of them got 50, it's Clarkson. You can obviously play both together. Utah looks really good here. I mean, they got legit, like you said, 8 guys wildly in play. So it's more a matter of who you don't play from Utah.
Right now, we have 236% ownership projected to Utah. I have 240, but I do have like pretty big stands to some of these guys. Like, I basically don't have John Collins, but I'm 2xing Walker Kessler. I don't really have a ton of Colin Sexton, but I'm like 2xing Jordan Clarkson. So like, I'm getting there in different ways. I'm a little bit under on Markkanen. I'm a little bit over on Fontecchio. I'm neutral on Olynyk. I'm neutral on Chris Dunn, which neutral means 30% for these dudes. So I'm soaking up a lot of Utah, but I am kind of taking a couple stands in both directions, positively and negatively on some of these guys. And I'm happy with that. I don't have a great field. These guys all look really good. Jalen Smith, available to play.
If Utah like smashes tonight, it's definitely a slate where I could see like the funneling, like we saw the other night, where you've got a bunch of Utah guys, Embiid, and then like, especially if a guy like Siakam also has a really good game, like you're gonna see a lot of similar lineups up there. It's hard to get away from that in NBA though. Like, NBA DFS is not the sport to like go on an island and play different. You want to usually get different in like 1 or 2 spots and play the chalk, because the chalk is the good plays and NBA is very projectable. So
it's a lot different. It's a lot different
than like MLB. Like, I love MLB DFS. They're just completely different games.
Yeah, same. It's night and day. Night and day. I love, like, it's really interesting to think about, just with all of this ownership. It really makes late swaps throughout the rest of the night very interesting, because you are committing a pretty sizable chunk of your exposure to the Utah Jazz, assuming you are doing this. I don't know how you don't get something here against Washington. We're talking about dead last defense, #1 pace type team. So there's a reason this is happening. It's really interesting, because you start to become very limited for any 7:30 swaps after this, and then you're obviously very limited for 10 o'clock and 10:30 moving forward, with the giant Lakers news hanging in the balance.
And I think you're making a big mistake being like, okay, I'm not going to play this game because of late swap. You have to play this game. Now, you don't have to play 5 guys from Utah, but you can. Like, that's in play here.
Very much so. Very much so. You're hoping that you're like on the right side of minutes for every guy that you're picking.
Right. Exactly. And which
is scary.
It is scary, but also like, yes, but 1 or 2 of the more than that could get there in not as many minutes because of the spot.
Hell of a team, man. Hell of it. Is there anybody you don't like, ignoring like Agbaji for this instance? Because like, anybody that's getting any real ownership, do you see anybody where you're just like, That's probably the one I'm going to try to get away from the most.
I want to say Fontecchio, but then he's only 4,100. Like, I'd rather get to Dunn and Olynyk, and you don't need like all that value because at some point you have to spend your salary. But he looks similar to Dunn and Olynyk. So no, I don't really have anyone I'm like, I want to get away from.
I agree. I don't see anything natural. They all exist with like easy pivots, but
the flip side is I kind of like Keontae George. It's not that I don't like anyone. I like a guy who's not getting any ownership.
Sure. That makes plenty of sense to me. I mean, he's, 0.9 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. There's nothing stopping him from falling into 2 or 3 extra minutes, and you feel really good about it. And at 4K, I mean, it's not going to take a ton to pay that off. You get up to 30 fantasy points, you feel great.
I'm not playing him because of this, but if this game gets weird in any way, he's going to see more minutes.
And then we get to the Wizards, fresh off of canning Wes Unseld Jr., that is.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So their new coach is some guy off of their bench that it doesn't matter. That does matter in that they're live to like do things we don't expect. Starters could play more. Like, do they want to win more? Do they start jamming these guys, the starters, 34, 35 minutes? Do we see a new starting lineup? Like, all of that is on the table for us. 13% ownership to Denny Avdia is the high mark for today. Single digits to everybody else across the board. A little bit more ownership coming in on FanDuel, where it's about 25 to Avdia, 25 to Kuzma, 20 to Tyus Jones. Do you like anything here from Washington?
I like Kuzma under 8K. I think Siakam looks better from like a value perspective, but I like the spot for Washington. We like all these Utah guys. Don't hate playing a guy from Washington. My preferred option would be Kuzma.
He is the guy that I have the most of. I have 10%, so I'm right with the field. I have a little Koulibaly, a couple shares of Kispert. I had 75% Denny this morning. That's down to 2. So I don't know what I did this morning to cause that to happen, but it went away now. Thank God. Yeah, it's just, if they do anything different to their starting lineup, then you start to question what you're getting for Washington. But if they run out the same starting 5 that we're used to, I don't really see how we can do anything different at this point. We just don't have the information. At that point, you're just guessing. We have Denny crossed 10% optimal. Bilal Koulibaly hit it on the dot. Everybody else is below that, including Kuzma. So it doesn't seem like the data is backing up getting to Washington all that much.
No, it's not. So I'm going to trust the data on this one. It doesn't like Washington at all.
To the Minnesota Timberwolves we go. They have Mike Conley, questionable once again. He's missed the previous 2 games, but he is also questionable again today with an illness. We know what we need to do in that case. If he is out, bump up your Nickeil Alexander-Walkers. Take a look at Kyle Anderson. On the opposite side for Brooklyn, Cam Johnson is available. Kevin Love now out for Miami, which I don't think matters to anybody at all. Everything else for Brooklyn is the same as it usually is. There is no ownership coming into this Minnesota team right now. 9% to Mike Conley is the high mark. 8 to Anthony Edwards. 13 to Conley on FanDuel. I have one guy here, 2xing the field. That is Anthony Edwards at 8,400, which fits our boom bust tool, where he is the highest leveraged Timberwolf, but 217 total in this one. Not the best overall game environment.
No, Edwards is one of the highest leverage plays in the entire slate, though. So always like guys like that, especially when they're as good as Edwards. Like, he's a perfect example of a guy you can play with the Utah chalk. Like, give me all chalky guys and Anthony Edwards. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take that type of lineup all day.
Yeah, maybe you don't have Markkanen in that lineup and you turn that into Edwards. Same price tag, very different ownership.
Exactly. And it's not a great spot, but it's Anthony Edwards. So he's my favorite piece too. Very hard to prioritize Minnesota here just in the context of the slate. This game doesn't look very appealing from a DFS perspective.
The only guy I have anything of is Edwards right now, which I'm okay with. Now, that'll probably, like, if Conley gets ruled out, it's going to be easier to grab little bits of Towns or Gobert or Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Like, it frees up more stuff. But I don't think there's ever going to be a priority coming out of Minnesota.
No, same. And honestly, Brooklyn looks pretty similar to me.
For the most part, I agree. We have basically around 10% ownership to Mikal Bridges. our boy, Nick Claxton and Spencer Dinwiddie. For Claxton, like he's always a dude in play. His minutes have been creeping up a little bit. He's 6,900. He's a double-double machine. He's going to be like a 14 and 10 guy every night. I have absolutely no issue getting to him. I think we're both on the same page that like any Mikal Bridges we get to is more than okay. Hopefully he has the same day he had earlier this week. I've got a little bit of Dinwiddie. I hate it a lot. We could talk about it if we need to. Is this sort of like business as usual for them where it's just like, yeah, Bridges works, Claxton works, but they're not like guys I need to go crazy for?
Yes, but a couple just points on what you said, which I totally agree with. I just don't really like Mikal Bridges' price falling doesn't make sense to me. Now, other guys are too cheap on the slate. He's not a must, but he does look similar to Siakam for me.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that much different of plays, to be perfectly honest. I think I feel more comfortable with Siakam, but that doesn't mean anything. And then
I have them separated by 0.2 of a fantasy point.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's funny you mentioned Dinwiddie because he's the perfect example of a guy like sometimes, knowing a lot about whatever sport you're playing, obviously if you're talking about it, you need to know a lot, can sometimes be a detriment. Like League of Legends DFS, which I love. I don't know, especially when I don't know the game. I don't know who these players are. I just would follow the tools.
Yeah.
Dinwiddie, when I watch them and when I read anything, seems like you cannot play him. Like he looks awful.
Yeah.
But he's the second highest leverage play in the slate. 14.5% chance of being optimal. He had been good like prior to whatever this past game or two that he sucked. I don't like it, but at 5,200, you're just buying low on the price. So I'm all about it.
We went over it a little bit on the strategy show, and I'll just read off these numbers and it explains everything. Over the past 8 games, starting with the most recent game, here are the minutes played for Spencer Dinwiddie. 19, 33, 33, 33, 20, 16, 28, 33. If you get the Dinwiddie that's playing okay and he plays 33 minutes, he is underpriced for that amount of playing time and you should be getting to him and he looks good. If you get the Dinwiddie that is dreadful and plays 19 or 20 minutes, every one of those lineups that you have with Spencer Dinwiddie in it is dead. The gap between and those are the extremes. He doesn't really have the middle ground, even though he's projected for the middle ground. You're getting one of those two things, but his projection is like the median of that, which is something that I don't think he's going to be able to do. Like we have him at 28.5 minutes. I have him at 28 minutes, but in all actuality, he's playing 20 or 34.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think a couple of those games he was sick. I don't know how far back you went, but I know that Cleveland game in Paris, he was questionable leading up to the game. Didn't play much and then didn't play much the next game. He's just too cheap. Now, the other point of that is he's too cheap and he's coming in with a lot of leverage, but you don't have to play him. Like there are certainly other guys you can play. Like if I were this is a perfect example. If I were multi-entering, he's easy to get over the field on at 9% ownership. You're playing one lineup, you can play him, but he's a really good differentiator. He's not a building block.
I completely agree. He's very much a large field multi-entry dude for today. I had a ton of him for the last game when it was obviously the low end. So I'm hoping he can redeem me here. Fingers crossed, I guess. Anything else for Brooklyn?
Nope.
Well, time to talk a little bit about Sleeper. They are the presenting sponsor of this show. Been talking about them a lot lately with good reason because they're offering the best deposit bonus that exists out there right now on any of the pick'em sites, up to $500 on your first deposit. They will match whatever it is. You put in 100, you get 100. You put in 200, you get 200. You put in 500, you get 500. Looks good. You get 100x payout. They have dynamic payouts. So it's not just like some of the other pick'em sites where you just see even action on both sides. You can get multipliers of 2x or 3x. That is going to get you up to 100x. So you have the opportunity to cash big. Now you're going to have to hit a bunch of plays. They're not going to be the easiest things in the world. I don't want to make it sound like it's simple. The key benefit here is that $500 first match deposit bonus. Not to mention This is the easy one. You can also sign up for Odds Shopper if you want and get tons of additional plays for the pick'em sites. That would be my recommendation. Love the Odds Shopper product, and I will see it very soon on the sports betting side. 2 more months. Cannot wait. But for now, click the link in the description or hit the link in chat. Sign up. You can see it on the screen right now. We also have the free square. Jason Tatum over 0.5 points. You want to take advantage of these free squares as much as you can. It's going to help keep your costs down at that site. Think of it as a way to offset some of the rake in the contest that you're playing, any of the hold that they have. That's going to help you out because you're not going to be able to get rich off of free squares. You're not allowed to put enough money down on it, but it will help you just cut out some of the extra costs associated with being at one of these sites. So click the link, sign up now. The Boston Celtics are 8-point favorites in Miami, 224 total. Not a lot to say here, at least on the Boston side. Everybody's available. Miami, no Jaime Jaquez. We just got the news that Kevin Love is out. Haywood Highsmith is available. There is no ownership coming into Boston. When these guys are at full strength, they're very difficult to get to. 6% ownership to Drew Holiday is the highest mark across both sites. 8.5% optimal rate for Drew Holiday is the only one north of 5% for Boston. I will not mind if one of these guys is the last guy into a lineup. But boy, oh boy, do they not look good. I don't have a single share of Boston.
No, they look like one of the worst teams on the slate just because of how good they are all around. It's not a good spot. They're healthy. They're priced where they should be. No thanks.
Yeah, I just don't have anything to add. Like, if you want Jason Tatum, play Jason Tatum. He's Jason Tatum. You're not gonna he can go for 60 fantasy points and it'll be really nice to have. But these guys are all just ownership pivots in GPPs that you cannot get to them in any sort of functional way right now. It's not that kind of matchup. Miami, second slowest team in the league. Bad spot to face the Miami Heat. Tobias Harris remains questionable.
Because the thing is, I said they're priced how they should be. They might be too expensive even. Not even that they're fairly priced. They're overpriced.
And they've had this situation recently where someone has been out basically every day recently. So it kind of has everybody $200 more expensive than they should be.
It's so hard to make a case for Tatum at 9,700 when Anthony Edwards is 8,400.
Yep. It's tough. And that's why we're seeing them look so bad in optimal rates and unowned. You're not going to be surprised when you see Flames next to Jaylen Brown's name in the middle of the third quarter, but you're also going to be competing with 3% of lineups.
And also, I don't think it's going to be a Flame situation where they're you need that score. And the only reason I said Edwards also is because he's not getting ownership. So you could go to Tatum, but there's other better plays that aren't getting ownership. So I'm with you. Man, how about Bam last night?
Looked good. I had a ton too. It didn't get me anywhere.
Did you?
Yeah.
He was so low. I mean, it kind of played out weirdly, a combination of what we both said. Miami was the team that couldn't score. Yeah. And Bam got a lot of blocks, but Memphis ended up that's a bad loss for Miami. It's a regular season NBA game, so who cares? But still a bad loss.
Ben Simmons could return as soon as Monday. Have you been waiting for the Ben Simmons return?
I feel like he's the definition of out of sight, out of mind. I haven't even thought of him.
I forgot that he played what feels like a lot earlier. That feels like a different season.
Yeah, there was a point in this season too where he was good also. Not for long, but
It's weird. It's very, very weird. Anyway, let's get to Miami. Oh, Ben Simmons. So no ownership coming into these two. Single digit ownership for everybody. Single digit optimal rate for everybody. But I'm getting a little bit of Miami here. I have 12% of a 4% owned Bam Adebayo. I think we're probably on the same page that it's just if you get shares of Bam, you get shares of Bam. I've got 26% of Tyler Hero. He's 6,800 point guard, shooting guard. Obviously a terrible spot against Boston. We're also trying to integrate Terry Rozier now, who certainly likes having the ball, taking shots, doing those sorts of things. But I just feel like Tyler Hero is a little bit underpriced for what this spot is today.
I couldn't agree more. I'll pay to find out whether I'm
Yeah.
whether I'm paying too much for him here. He's not a guy that really should ever be under 7K. I know that everything you said, Rozier is there, bad spot. They're still going to score. He's still a very, very good 3-level scorer at the NBA level. Like, he's too cheap. So it's weird. I obviously like the Embiids of the world tonight, but I also think you can play a ton of like the Tyler Heroes, Siakams, Bridges, DeRozans of the world.
Yeah. Like Embiid is going to have a game sometime soon where it doesn't all just click immediately. It doesn't seem like that's possible given the fact that he scores at least 30 points the last time he didn't score 30 was November 15th.
What's crazy? Oh yeah, he's got a streak of like 30-10 games, so it's like 20 long. The thing for me that's
2 months ago.
He barely recently a little bit more. He was barely playing fourth quarters. And every time he wasn't playing the fourth, he was still throwing up like 70 DK points. Never like 50.
No, like, I mean, the game before the 70 burger, 33, 10, and 5 with 3 blocks in 37 minutes. Like, that's not going to get it done today.
No,
I need that game.
Yeah,
like it's a great game, but like that's not going to be the one that does it. That's what you need. That's the worst game that he has played since November 21st. Obviously,
I also think his ownership's going to be higher than always projected. A guy like him, like I just think
he's so casually popular.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Sometimes, sure, he'll come in a little bit lower owned, but the majority of time, I expect it to be a little bit higher.
I'll have to check that out tomorrow on the process show. I want to see what his ownership, assuming like this all breaks correctly, I want to see what his ownership for 150 maxers is in comparison to casuals, because I'm guessing the non-maxers in the 15 will be very high on Joel Embiid. Seems just like a natural thing to click in.
Couldn't agree more.
I don't have anything else for Miami. I assume you're the same way.
Yeah, no, I like Hero probably a little bit more than I should. And Bam is, I mean, our tools still really like Bam getting no ownership. I mean, I'm fine with it.
The Denver Nuggets are 2.5-point favorites in New York, 222 total. 12% ownership coming into the obvious play from Denver, Reggie Jackson. That's the most owned dude. Everybody else is in single digits. KCP got to 16 on FanDuel. So Denver is quite unique in that they don't appear to be all that interesting to anybody. Single digit, if I'm not rounding, single digit optimal rates for everybody on DraftKings. Aaron Gordon got to 9.9. So that is a technicality, but I'll take what I can get. How do you feel about Reggie Jackson? How do you feel about Aaron Gordon? Do you want to use Jokic as a Joel Embiid pivot?
I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think that Embiid is like 10 times or 9 times as likely to succeed here as Jokic. He's also a little bit more expensive. I think if I'm not playing Embiid, I probably just like won't play that price range. But I do think you could play a really popular lineup and then not play Embiid and play Jokic, and your upside is exactly the same.
Yep. I agree. That ownership would you'd be jumping over a lot of people if Jokic has a Jokic day.
And he's been good recently. Yeah. Like it's not even, that doesn't matter, but like, I mean, it matters in the context that like we've seen it twice out of the past 2 games. He's had monster games.
31, 13, and 10 last time out, 42, 12, and 8 with 4 stocks the game before that. 1.73 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. The only thing that's slowing him down here is just the fact that they're slow. The Knicks are slow. They're both like good enough defensively. So it's not an overall appealing game, but I do like him in large field stuff. I think he's kind of hard to get to in like single entry type stuff. You're just going to be able to find better ways to reallocate that money. And you kind of want to leave yourself open on the off chance that LeBron sits, and then you can get to AD, who will look better than Jokic if there's no LeBron around, just because of that power forward eligibility. But otherwise, like I'm sitting right around the field on Aaron Gordon, right around the field on Reggie Jackson. None of that makes me feel great, but I get why it's happening.
Yeah, I'm fine with those guys. I probably would rather play the Utah chalk, but I mean, Reggie Jackson's too cheap at 3,800. He's a fine fill-in option. I know he was good last game too.
Tim in chat says, when stars play at MSG, they go crazy. I'm a lifelong Knicks fan. It's a thing. The only thing about that is I bet that Nikola Jokic doesn't give a single shit he's playing in Madison Square Garden.
Also, he's probably played there for like 5 years now. I mean,
yeah. But like even still, like of all the stars,
Right. He's the one who
He's
doesn't.
not getting caught up in the bright lights. He doesn't care.
Yeah, here's my thing with Jokic here, why it's really hard to get to him. So you just talked about how good of a game you need from Embiid. Well, I like the idea of pivoting off Embiid to a low-owned Jokic, but I don't like the spot Jokic is in either. So if I'm not playing Embiid, I just think there's a lot of other places, like ways to build your lineup, if you will.
I agree. Do we want to look at the Knicks side? Because got a little bit of a stand on this one.
Yeah, I'm cool with the Knicks.
Single-digit ownership across the board on DraftKings. 10% to Dante DiVincenzo on FanDuel is the high mark. Single-digit optimal rates to everyone on the Knicks on the DraftKings side. I got a little bit of Jalen Brunson at 4% ownership. I don't mind it. Playing, 37 minutes a night, 1.28 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. I also have 28% of a 6% owned Julius Randle at 8,900 power forward center. Feel like he's just going to take a lot of shots and miss them today. I don't know why I have that feeling. It just is. But he seems to be one of the contrarian dudes that I'm getting to today. Do you like anything from the Knicks?
I like Randall the most. I'm not sure how actionable it is for me because he's priced where he should be for a spot like this. I think they just played Washington and then Brooklyn. They're priced it's hard to see Brunson getting higher than 8,800. Randall, I mean, he gets occasionally over 9K. So we
just got some Knicks news. Sorry to cut you off. Isaiah Hartenstein is out for tonight.
Okay, so that makes me like Randall even more. I know that he kind of struggled a little bit the last game I was on him, but then finished really hard. Ended up with a 50 spot. So, yeah. The other thing about this game is should be competitive, if nothing else. And you never know. Sometimes games play a little faster. Teams make more shots than you'd expect. It reminds me a little bit of the Miami-Boston game where nothing looks overly appealing, but I think these guys are more in play, especially Randall.
I hate the idea of trying to project out Jericho Sims minutes, who was just a real thorn in everybody's side last time out. Played 26 and a half. You got 21 and a half out of Precious. So they split the full 48 at the 5. I would imagine they're doing the same thing here today, just because I don't get the sense that they want to run Randall at the 5 against Nikola Jokic. So I think they're going to be keeping a center out there if they can. If you go 24-24 to Sims and Precious Achiuwa, 4,500 for Precious looks pretty solid with that power forward eligibility. Sims probably pretty difficult to get to. He's a pretty poor per minute dude. I think we're going to be running back at least a little bit of Precious Achiuwa value.
Their prices I know Achiuwa's went up a little bit, but Sims now 4,200. No, I'm not chasing that. I mean, he nutted last game. That was his ceiling game.
Yeah. He did 6 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, and 4 blocks. And I think he had all of that in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, you can't pay 4,200 for him because he did that last game.
No. Precious, though, 4,500 is going to look like a nice value play for the slate.
He could also end up playing a lot more than he played last game. If Sims foul trouble just isn't playing as well, I don't think they're going to hesitate bringing Precious in. Sims played the entire first quarter last game.
Yeah, trust me, as someone that was holding a pretty big bag of Precious Achiuwa, I was very acutely aware of it.
And it's funny, you rarely see I think Sims was 3K. He was unowned, which he shouldn't have been owned, but the field is sharp these days. They know Sims sucks and wasn't projected to play a lot of minutes.
By the way, Patrick Williams is 18% owned at 4,500. I have him and Precious pretty similarly projected. So I think we could expect Precious, since he has power forward, probably in that 10, 15 upwards of, probably in that range for ownership. So a very reasonable value play that we didn't have 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Anything else for the Knicks?
Nope.
Sacramento Kings are 2-point favorites in Golden State, 243 total for this one. Kings have no Sasha Vezenkov, who's going to be out for a little bit with a sprained ankle. No Moses Moody, Chris Paul, or Gary Payton. 22% ownership to Malik Monk, who is the highest optimal rate, but a little bit overowned. 16% ownership coming into Domantas Sabonis at 9,900. If you want to save some center money, decent way to do it. Not much ownership coming into anybody else for Sacramento. Who stands out to you?
I hate this, but De'Aaron Fox, he has killed me the past 2 weeks. I mean, lost me a ton of money. I've played him a lot. He has been awful, but it's not even that I'm being stubborn. We know who De'Aaron Fox is. Our tools still like him as like the contrarian pivot that we talked about with Anthony Edwards, Bam. He fits in that mold. Considering other guys got price decreases, I wish the same had happened for Fox. It didn't.
Yeah.
He stands out to me as like the contrarian option. Sabonis stands out to me as the best option if you can get to him. And then Monk is probably the most actionable given his price point.
Yeah, I like the Fox pivot. Like if we get Harris out, I like the Fox pivot if you don't get if you don't have a maxi lineup.
Agreed.
Similar-ish price area. I don't have him.
It's
I wish
hard,
I did.
Though.
Yeah, like I don't have any right now.
It's hard to play Fox over Maxi right now at the same price, especially if Harris is out. Like it just is.
I'm basically neutral on Monk, neutral on Sabonis. I don't have much else to any of these guys. Like I don't really need to worry about working in Keegan Murray or Harrison Barnes or anything like that. It's really just basically those two guys and then any flyers you want to take on Fox.
From a 30,000 foot view, this game looks appealing, but it's not really.
Yeah, no, you hop to the Golden State side and it's 7% ownership to Jonathan Kuminga. It's 8% optimal rate to Kuminga. Both of those, the highest marks you get on DraftKings. Now they're much more owned on FanDuel, but the only guy that I have anything of is $5,800 power forward Jonathan Kuminga. I would obviously take any shares of Steph Curry. You've got Fox sitting there at 9K as basically like another version of him that's also not getting any ownership. So if you can't get Steph, you're certainly not getting to Fox. It's really just Kuminga or bust for me. And even that is just like, it could just be bust, and that's cool too.
Yeah, I think Kuminga is in play, but a little flimsy, like feels a little chasey after what he did last night. Is he going to play that many minutes if he's not playing so well? Who knows? He should, but I don't want to guess what Golden State's going to do. So Kuminga is my favorite piece. Obviously, Steph would be my favorite piece, but man, it's really hard to spend 700 more on him than Maxi, who projects better. That's not what NBA DFS is. Like, if you get it right, it works out for you in a big way, but it's just really tough for me to advocate for something like that.
I thought they were going to look so much better.
Yeah, same. I thought both sides were going to look better, to be honest.
Yeah, it's just not here. I mean, this total is only 2 points less than Utah, Washington. Very different scenario going on for the pricing here for Golden State. Kuminga was 11 for 11 from the field last night.
Yeah, he won. I think he was in the winner last night.
Well, let's hope he can keep that momentum alive if I really do have 14% of him. We close it out. But first, you got to hit the like button. If you want to see NBA Live Before Lock after this, you can only unlock that show by hitting the thumbs up. That will allow the stream to continue for you. So there's 2,000 people in here, 350 likes. That means 1,650 of you are about to go to a black screen in 5 minutes, so be ready for it. Chicago Bulls, 4.5-point dogs in Los Angeles, 229 total. The Bulls have everybody that's normally available. No Zach LaVine here. 20% ownership to DeRozan, to Vooch, to Patrick Williams, 15 to Alex Caruso, and 10 to Kobe White. I've got quite a bit of Patrick Williams. I got quite a bit of Alex Caruso, a little bit of scattered DeMar DeRozan and Vooch. Happy to just have this exposure to make my swaps easier later on in the day. What do you like from Chicago?
Patrick Williams is certainly not my favorite play, but he's 4,500, so he works from a value perspective. I like Chicago here, though.
Yeah.
Side note, I know you listen to Simmons also. Did you hear his most recent, I think it was just his latest podcast where he's talking about how the Bulls should just stay put? Like, that he's, not that the Bulls are, like, good, but he thinks, like, they could be kind of good with how Kobe White's played.
He's very wrong.
I don't like their roster at all, but I think the counterpoint is that they can't deal any of these guys, really.
I mean, Kobe White plus 2.1 offensive EPM, very appealing. Negative 2.0 defensive EPM, slightly less appealing. He's an average player. Vooch is cooked. I've been shitting all over that dude for 2 years now. DeRozan is old and a free agent. Like they have to tear it down. Life is going to make them tear it down.
Yeah, that's
hopefully.
Fair. It was just funny hearing that take because he's been hard on the Bulls for a while because they suck.
Yeah, they're just such a weird team. Every time you think they're about to blow it up, they go on like a 5-game winning streak, and you're like, oh no, they're going to run it back another year.
Yeah. That said, from a DFS perspective, I do like DeRozan here. He's just too cheap. They're healthy, but they don't have LaVine still. So, like, The usage is there. Kobe White, fine. Don't really want to pay more for him than I do DeRozan. Like, DeRozan is right in that Siakam, Mikal Bridges boat of plays for me.
I wanted to get more just because this game's in LA and I wanted to buy into the narrative, but doesn't appear to be happening for me. I only have 14%. It's really Caruso and Patrick Williams carrying this like value torch for the Bulls for me. And then we get to the Lakers, a team that we can really just basically not talk about, but can talk about. Questionable tag on AD, questionable tag on LeBron. Now, we normally have the probable tag on Anthony Davis, so we are extra confused for what happens here tonight. We can't really go through the permutations of what happens if one or the other or both are out. We can talk about it when they're in. 10% ownership to LeBron, 10 to AD, 10 to Reeves. I have 20 of all three of those guys.
Do you have any inkling one way or the other?
I don't. Same. I don't. The ADQ tag makes me feel like he's going to bag this one tonight and we get LeBron. Same. But like, I don't have a great feel. I have enough AD right now that if we get that news early enough, at the very least, I should be able to like swap a little bit of that to Domantas Sabonis, which would be a little bit easier. You're going to want it. Like, if you get this news so late and AD is out, like, you're obviously going to want Christian Wood. He's also going to be very difficult to put in a lineup because you've got $7,000 other dollars if you're dropping down to him that you might not be able to reallocate in the way that you want to. Like, if you already had a 7K guy in the other spot, you can't spend 14K on some made up player to offset your salary. That's the only sort of like hesitation for this. But I have enough right now that I'm set up to move bits and pieces around if I need to.
I think there's some game theory in like not playing Utah. I'm not saying I advise this, like not playing Utah and then just waiting out the news. All of a sudden, if you get LeBron and AD out, the Lakers look better than Utah. And even if those guys are in, still not impossible for Utah to fail. I think that that's a game theory way you can look at this slate. Not how I'm going to play it, because I don't expect that to be the case. And all of a sudden, if one of LeBron or AD is in, it makes those secondary pieces like not great plays, just in play. So
yeah,
it's really hard to kind of talk about the Lakers here because we just don't know the news. And it's you're not going to be able to do much with it either. Like,
no,
it makes playing with those guys really difficult.
If you get the news early enough before the Sacramento game, then it's fine. Nothing matters. You have enough stuff to move around. If you get it at 9:59, you want to die.
The other thing, though, is like you do have enough room, but the problem is like Davis and LeBron are forwards. You can play Davis at center. The expensive guys from the Sacramento game are guards, and then Sabonis, who's a center. Like, you can maneuver, and you're right. If you get that news before that second to last game, you're not screwed.
Yeah.
But you're still not in a great spot unless what happens is what you planned for.
Yeah. What you really need is to pray that like you've got AD in the utility spot. That's in the optimal scenario, he's there because then no matter what, he can be Sabonis. Even in like if you've got 2 minutes to go and you have AD and utility, you can hot swap him to Sabonis and you don't have to worry about DraftKings software not allowing you to do that.
AD is definitely going for like 100 fantasy points tonight at very low ownership.
Well, I'll have 22%, so hopefully that carries me to victory. Anything else? We are through this hour. We are through 7 games. I really do like it. It's gross, but I kind of like it.
It's funny. Even after like the slates like tonight's that I don't really love, after talking it out with you, I'm like, I love this slate.
Yeah, it's fun now. It's fun. Shout out to Sleeper for being the sponsor. Shout out to you guys. 508 likes. You guys must really want to see NBA Live before lock. If you haven't hit that thumbs up yet, you got to do it right now. Stay on this stream. Show's coming up next if you do it. We'll talk to you later.
Yo, it's that time of week again, and what a week it's been. Maybe a little more than a week for the stochastic avatars all over the leaderboard. If you're trying to get involved, you want to get a free month stochastic package, any one of your choice, up to $200 value, and get inducted into the Hall of Fame right here every single week. All you got to do, download the stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar. Tweet us your wins with the screenshot, maybe a cool message as well, at Stochastic Hall of Fame. As long as it's a field of 5,000 or more and you finish top 3, you are in. Let's get it started for the week. And we kick it off with our boy, Eric Lindquist. I'm not reading all that, brother, but I love you. $30,000 taking down, chopping the fadeaway for $30K. Just an absolutely massive day for Eric, and we're very happy for him. He said a lot of nice things, but we only have so much time in the day. Peter Hanley, he's back, baby. $50K for Peter Hanley, taking down another one, saying keep it real. Tommy Stoke, how about this one? Our own Tommy, $113,000 on DraftKings. I'm no DFS pro, but using stochastic sims made me feel like one last night. Needless to say, chalk up a new high score, move over PokerStars Sunday warm-up. Here's my 113K lineup and how I basically clicked 3 buttons to create. You love to see that. The sims are working, and they're working well for every sport. Losing to a girl, shout out to the Sims tool. Also, screw you, Jabari Walker. I know this isn't a huge hit. Just want my free month of Sims. And Jorge's back. $60 in the 6,400. It's been a while, but here we are. 6th, an amazing ROI with $60 entry, thanks to the fantastic tools and content by the boys. Alex M, let's go. Another win, $4,000. Second place in the 3-point stance for Alex. Mike coming in hot with a $300 win, down to his last $20 before he had to deposit again. Said, your tool saved me. I'm a believer, best in the industry. Gary Wright, less than a week using the lineup generator and found myself in first place. Shout out to Gary. Chris, $1,750. A very simple man with at Stochastic HOF, but interesting screenshot because first place was Gridiron for $7,500, also rocking the Stochastic avatar. And Sean's back every single week, Monster Night on DK. Shout out to the Stochastic crew, best tools and content in the game. What's that? Almost $6,000 between 2 different contests. And CEO of Stochastic, Tom Kennedy, $50,000, just saying decent. And then different sports, same sims, $12,600. We just released the MMA sims too, so that looks good. X Knight, what an awesome night. Finally managed to get my first Owner's Box Showdown win. NFL Sims Tool's been a game changer for me in my DFS journey. And Tyson with a $450 win in the end one. That's a tough one to win. Not to mention Slim Lancaster with a $2,000 win there. Second place was also another Stochastic avatar. Rob Stay growing the bankroll with a nice $700+ win here. And then you've got Michael Vassell. Thanks for the inflow. Watch your videos regularly to help build my lineups. Was able to get second in the 30K and won. Don't know if I used the right avatar. That's fine. It works. It says Stochastic. To get the free month, but still very thankful. Keep doing what you're doing. Shout out to all you guys. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. If you haven't been here before, if you have, welcome back. Remember, all you got to do to get involved, get a free $200 subscription to your choosing, is use the avatar at stochastic.com/avatar and tweet your wins to us at Stochastic HOF. We'll see you back here next week.
So funny watching us change our lineups last night. Who's laughing now, Jordan?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
who's laughing?
We're staying on, doing productive things, making money for the family, and all of a sudden,
oh my God, you guys are such losers.
I'm leaving.
I've got the second Call of Duty 3 to play for some reason.
Loser.
Yeah, nerd.
What an idiot.
What's happening, guys? And it is another NBA Live Before Lock. And as you guys come in, if you could be so kind, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and unprecedented happenings, Eric. We had GPP hits in the same week. which I am fairly sure has never happened before, that we've won like nearly back-to-back, because you won a couple days ago. I won last night. Didn't come in first place. I came in second last night. You came in first in the $15 earlier in the week. I only came in second, lost to the dumbest Patty Mills lineup of all time.
I still I'm still not over it for you, because I'm the one who texted you. I was just like, why is Patty Mills in a lineup that's going to catch you right now? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. 0.36% own Patty Mills.
You aren't the only one. Our Discord channel, which it was hopping today. I don't know how this happened, but Rich is aware of this as well, because Rich is on the show with us. Somehow Patty Mills destroyed our Discord channel today, because we started last night making fun of the Patty Mills lineup, and it carried over to the entire of today. That's all we've been talking about in the Discord channel is the Patty Mills lineup. It has caused debates upon debates upon debates. I recorded a video that's going to go up on the YouTube channel about some of the strategies that I put in play last night, about how I use the Sims tool to best create my lineups, that I was going to have some of that flexibility for later. Because what we did last night, Eric, that was key to our lineups was not getting us too much exposure to the early games. And that is something we're going to have to discuss again on today's slate, considering we've got Anthony Davis and LeBron James being questionable to play in the later game on the slate. But if you go and look at our post-contest Sims, which I recommend everybody should do, if you're a Stochastic member and you have a Sims membership, use the post-contest Sims. Look at the previous slates and try to figure out where you went right, where you went wrong. And also, if you're not a member, sign up using the link that we have below. What are you waiting for? If Eric could win money, any of you guys can. That's a fact.
Fair.
That's a fact. But if you go and look at the post-contest Sims last night, the two worst plays on the slate that were picking up a decent amount of ownership, that have the highest negative ROIs. You want to guess who they were last night?
NAW definitely won. And then was the other Kyle Anderson?
No, it was NAW and Brandon Miller.
Okay,
which, I was very happy to see how, and but it was like Brandon Miller by a really wide margin. Made me very happy.
Smashed faces.
Well, he didn't end up being all that important because he was fine. Right. He didn't do anything in the set. He scored like 8 fantasy points.
Thank God.
But he ended up having a massive, like a lineup with Brandon Miller was projected to have a negative 60% ROI on the whole yesterday. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was like negative 35%. The reason for that is not because these guys weren't good looking plays at lock. That's not the reason why. It was because much better looking plays ended up opening up later on in the day. So you wanted to position your lineups to give yourself the flexibility to be able to do it. And the way that Eric and I were doing it was to do negative ROI boosts to some of the players who were kind of fringy options, like in Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the first game. Not that he projected poorly at the time, because we knew better projected players were going to open up later. So make sure that you guys, if you're using our tools, think about these things. Not just what looks good now, but what are the key players on the injury report? How is that going to impact lineups later? And that's something we have to talk about again today, Eric, because Anthony Davis is questionable. LeBron James is questionable. And we've got some other scenarios, like Mike Conley is questionable. Tobias Harris was just ruled out. But how are you going to position your lineups to account for LeBron and AD being questionable? Or do you just assume that they both play and they'll be good to go?
Yeah, so my entire article today, I'm writing Lindy's DFS decisions over at Stochastic. If you guys want to read that, it's never going to catch EMAC. I'm never going to be able to pass him. He's been writing an article for 487 years, going back to like the original, like when golf was invented, he was writing PGA DFS golf articles for it. But still, love my guy EMAC, and just wanted to get in the writing streets again. Basically just covered in depth that I'm going to be overweight to the Bulls. I think getting to a lot of the Bulls, Patrick Williams, Alex Caruso, Kobe White, DeMar DeRozan, getting to those guys, having a little preset number of Sabonis, of Anthony Davis, I'm just going to be playing a lot of them, and then I can kind of move around some of those pieces. Malik Monk's another guy that just seems to be showing up in the Sims tool as well. I'm going to be overweight to a lot of them, and I think what we've really got to decide is how we're going to be handling Utah here in the early window, because if the news breaks against you where LeBron James ends up playing, there's still a chance that maybe he's limited with the ankle, but like I would assume that he's playing 34, 36 minutes right out of the gate, and that's a little bit problematic because you don't want to get to Russell or any of those guys. But if you get LeBron out, Anthony Davis, obviously, he's questionable too, so there's a chance that something happens there, but I assume LeBron James, if he ends up sitting, you can get to Russell, Reeves, those guys. And I think Kobe White, extra exposure to him gives you that opportunity to swap into some of those pieces. So I'm just finding myself overweight to all of them. And I'm just kind of like figuring out how much is too much Utah here at the moment. I'm going to be playing Lauri Markkanen. I'm going to be playing Colin Sexton. But those are like the 8K, 6K guys. I think a little Jordan Clarkson in my life as well. But as far as the value goes, if they're going to be truly 25% owned, 20% owned, these are spots that I think I have to be getting away to some extent. Curious how you're going to be handling it, but like for me, it's just getting overweight to bulls on the other side and hoping that that pans out.
Yeah, so I do need to run lineups again just because players are continually getting ruled out as we're starting here. So like Hartenstein got ruled out, then Tobias Harris got ruled out. So I do need to do a fresh run of everything to see what my exposures are. But I think what I'm going to do is the same thing I did yesterday, which is I'm going to do some slight negative ROI downgrades to players from Utah, not as aggressively as I did last night, where I ended up hardly getting to anything from the early games outside of I had LaMelo exposure. We liked him. And that was something which, in hindsight, I think we're probably a little bit too high on LaMelo. We should have been getting to more of guys.
I was underweight ever so slightly. Yeah, I was a little bit underweight to him, but like he was a good play.
In hindsight, actually, like because I would have preferred I had more lineups with Luka. I know that Luka didn't end up like crushing or anything like that, but yeah. I should have had more lineups reserved for Luka and for Wemby. And they were both guys who had like 70% of my lineups. But in hindsight, I wish I would have had like 80% of Wemby and Luka. Totally. That aside, for today, I'm going to be doing something similar, but not quite as aggressive. So Utah, there are pieces I want to get to. So I don't want to entirely eliminate some of these guys from my player pool. But I know if I just run things as is, I get to like, 3/4 of my lineups with Kelly Olynyk and a bunch with it, which good plays. I just don't want quite as much as what the data is going to spit out for me. So I'm going to mute some of that to give me a little bit more flexibility. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I said the guys that I'm going to be getting to are not the cheapies, it would seem. I am playing a little bit of like a Walker Kessler. Again, he's still over a fantasy point per minute guy. Never know what to do with these minutes. I think the ones that I'm pretty vehemently against, like Kelly Olynyk, he's 32% owned. I get that he's a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy, but you just go through the minutes and what they're doing with these rotations. If he is not going to eclipse 17 minutes, which he hasn't done a single time in his last 6, I can't play this much of him, knowing that I could end up getting a $4,300 guy in, I think Rui Hachimura, like that ended up working out for me where I had 4 fantasy points more from Taurean Prince as opposed to playing the super chalk Rui Hachimura. Still got annihilated on that slate 2 nights ago, so it didn't matter for me, but I think I got a little bit lucky. Rui still played 30 minutes there, absent LeBron. If he ends up sitting again, LeBron, that is, Rui Hachimura is the guy I want to get to ad nauseum, small forward, power forward. Jared Vanderbilt, he's serviceable. I don't expect anything close to what we got from him last time out. Almost a double-double. Had a bunch of blocks or steals that he added to the column as well. But 3,900 has some utility. And then Christian Wood, he didn't smash for everybody last time out. Only played 13 minutes, but there's obviously potential for him to be out there. So, 3,600 for a good fantasy performer isn't the worst thing ever. I just feel like Kelly Olynyk is so thin at that kind of ownership.
Shout out to Nicholas Robertson in chat because he said that he just made a deposit on Sleeper. They're sponsoring the show. And I just want to remind him and anybody else that if you sign up at Sleeper for the first time using the link that we have below, not only do you get the deposit bonus offer, but you also get access to over 0.5 points for Jason Tatum. So easy free square to take advantage of over at Sleeper. So Nicholas, nice. Love to see you taking advantage of some of those deposit offers, but also take advantage of the Jason Tatum over 0.5 points that any of you can get access to if you sign up at Sleeper using the link that we have below. Let's see what we have as far as super chats here and opening it up here. We've got DB Average Pilot says, smash that like button. These guys rock Kuminga. All right. We rock Kuminga. Is there a reference that I'm missing here, Jordan? Have I done something stupid? Okay. I wasn't sure if I said something. I was like, did I just say something I wasn't? I was reading the chat. I was like, I feel like I'm saying something I'm not supposed to here. And, Eric and I, we've been had by YouTube names or things people have said before. And for a second, I thought, did I just say something that I
kicker of K?
Yeah, there was the infamous kicker of K Hunt scenario, which Eric did not read that name out quite correctly. He kind of blended the.
And then Greg goes, "What?" His voice went into another register of the world.
Mickey Mouse and then laughed for about 2 months afterwards. It was a good time. Chris Williams has left us a super chat. He says, "Congrats, Sir Greg. Later, no rush. Top captains in value for the DK Lakers showdown." Man, Chris, I wish I had a good answer for you. It is very hard to know with Anthony Davis and LeBron James both being questionable. so much could change. So I have lineups that I've built for it, assuming you're going to ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to just tell you that this is assuming that Anthony Davis and LeBron are in, with the caveat being that they're both questionable, and it is certain that this could end up changing. If we see AD and LeBron both get rolled out, like Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reed, I mean, there's just all the usage available in the world for the Lakers. But as things stand now, the pay up options you want to be getting to are for sure Anthony Davis and LeBron James. And then you could save a little bit of money on the Chicago side of things. So guys like Patrick Williams from the Bulls, Andre Drummond's a kind of interesting contrarian play to look at for showdown contests as well, because if Vooch ever gets into foul trouble, or if you just get 18 minutes out of Drummond for whatever reason, I mean, we've seen times that he could absolutely destroy. And there have been games over the last couple of weeks that Drummond and Vooch have occasionally shared the court together. So who knows? That is a route they could go down as well. So Patrick Williams and Andre Drummond, if you want to be contrarian with some upside, I think somebody you could get to. As far as pay up options, LeBron and AD, as of now, it's pretty straightforward to me as the guys playing captain. If they end up getting ruled out, things could change. And one thing that also to add on top, another thing on top of one more thing. So it ended up being like three more things. But if LeBron is in and AD is out or vice versa, that guy is the stud to play in the game with no second thought. So Chris, thank you very much for the super chat. And also thank you for gifting out 5 YouTube memberships, because I see you did that there. Actually, I'm not sure if you're on Twitter, Chris, but if you are on Twitter, me or DM me later on in the night when we get more definitive Lakers news, and I'll run more lineups for you and let you know what the results are, because it is a little hard to say definitively right now. Phil Senzig, G Baby with the win. Thank you very much, Phil. And then he wants to know lotion play of the night. Where are we going? Lotion play of the night, Eric.
Put the lotion on the skin. Let's see. Lotion play of the night. It's got to be something later for Daddy. It's got to be a little bit later for me.
Okay.
Let's go. I mean, Kobe White is somebody that we'll talk about a little bit later. Patrick Williams definitely doesn't put a ball in the basket. Let's go to Anthony Davis. Okay, so the other big decision point of this entire slate is how the hell you handle Joel Embiid, because he's been out of control. There are some out of control numbers. You go through everything that he does this season. You're talking 39% usage. You're talking a guy that legitimately, what is it? 36 points per game, 11.5 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game. I mean, these are just absurd numbers that we're seeing from him. Playing the Pacers, 25% owned, which also feels light to me. It feels like people are just going to jam, and they're going to jam Jazz, or they're going to sit on late news and be able to try to mine some value out of that. I feel pretty good that I want to get to Anthony Davis way more than the field here, and just hope that LeBron James ends up sitting out. And if that doesn't come to fruition, I'll just go to some more Domantas Sabonis. I mean, it is Golden State on a back-to-back. They just don't want to put Looney out there. Domantas Sabonis should be able to do whatever he wants. Hopefully he can offensively just add a little bit more just in terms of usage there. But he's playing 35, 36, and we've got him in for 37 minutes today here at Stochastic. So if I end up on Sabonis instead, sweet, 9,900, I'll get to some of that and rotate some stuff around. But I feel as though this is one of those slates where I will be underweight to Joel Embiid, and I don't like that feeling. How about you?
Lotion play. Which way do I want?
Anthony Davis lotion play.
My gut feeling is that LeBron plays and AD sits tonight.
What? Fuck off. That would suck. That would be awful for me.
I'm just telling you that's my gut feeling of
Oh my God. So hang on. Is this like me yesterday where we're on the Zoom call and I'm like, Blake Wesley is going to start tonight? I was like, we need to jam Blake Wesley, and we did.
No, it's because AD popped up as questionable on the injury report, and as much as over the last couple of years that the Lakers have had AD and LeBron as questionable on the injury report, LeBron has been questionable basically every slate this year. AD hasn't. So to me, I take the AD injury a little bit more seriously than I normally would, because he hasn't been questionable on the injury report very many times. Also, they haven't rested him or sat him very much this year, which they typically do in the past. So I looked at the questionable designation as he's maybe not 100% if he doesn't feel great warming up, that they're going to just pull him from the lineup. So that's my gut feeling.
Well, shit.
I mean, it's just a guess. I'm not telling you confidently he's going to sit. That's just how I think the slate's going to play out.
Okay. Eric, nice call on Laurie Marketed 2 nights ago. Yeah, the night after I won 30K, you're right. I got one guy wrong. Sorry about it. My bad.
What are you going to do to atone?
I will give you a better nuke play. Kevin Durant was awesome. Devin Booker was awesomer yesterday. I wish I had ended up on more of that, even though I was overweight to that, so it's okay.
Let's go ahead and answer a question here for, and by the way, I'm going to go with my lotion play. I'm going with LeBron James. I don't think people are going to play him today. Ace of Spade.
Well, I'm going to just make some way for it here now.
Ace of Spade, DK tiers, favorite options, and we also got a Swaz in YouTube in Discord was asking us about some DK tiers. So let's go ahead and look at tiers. Tier 1 is Joel Embiid. If you could pay up for anybody on the slate and salary, doesn't matter. I don't know how you go to anybody other than Joel Embiid.
That is correct, but again, yeah, game theory and stuff.
Joel Embiid in tier 1. Tier 2, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum. Do you have lineups built out for this, Eric? If not, I'll just...
Yeah, I do. I already did.
Yep. Okay. Tatum for me in tier 2.
Tatum for 2.
Tier 3, Tyrese Maxey. And it's generally not my favorite thing to do in tiers to be like, hey, let's play studs from tiers 1 and tiers 3 in the same line. But Tobias Harris is out for the 76ers, which is going to help a little bit. So I'm good with it. Tyrese Maxey in tier 3.
Definitely Tyrese Maxey.
Tier 4 is a lot closer. We've got Edwards, we've got Vooch, we've got Markkanen, we've got Kuzma here. I'm going to go with Lauri Markkanen. How about yourself, Eric?
Yep, I love Lauri.
Okay, tier 5. Tier 5 for me, that is DeMar DeRozan. Zach LaVine still out for the Bulls.
Same Z's.
And then tier 6, that's going to be Colin Sexton for me in that good matchup for the Utah Jazz against the Washington Wizards.
Yep.
Next super chat here is coming to us from Sean. He wants to know the best plays on DK at each position. I might circle back to this because I need to do a fresh run of my lineups to account for the news that happened right before the show started. So I'm rerunning my lineups in the background here. But anything that you want to add to this now, Eric? If not, I'm totally fine with us waiting a second to answer some of these more specific questions about our exposures.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, so you do it then, and then I'll answer mine afterwards.
Okay. Just exposure for top at each position, straight down the line.
Yeah, because I want to have a fresh set of lineups done before I just half-ass an answer here.
Oh, that's fine. For me, point guard, Colin Sexton, shooting guard, Sexton. Clarkson would be second there. As of right now, I'm happier getting to the mid-range pieces. Small forward is DeMar DeRozan at the moment. Again, just playing a lot of that secondary part of the game. Power forward is Lauri Markkanen. Again, just Sexton, Clarkson, Markkanen. Those are the main guys that I'm playing from Utah. I'm not going to be playing a lot of those value guys. And then at center, my top guy is Domantas Sabonis right now.
Which player from the Jazz, Eric, are you most okay with getting away from? I know you'd mentioned Olynyk before. Is that the guy that you're okay going elsewhere with, or is it somebody else from Utah you're like, that's chalk I don't feel great about?
Yeah, I have 0% John Collins.
Oh, okay.
I just think the minutes are such in flux there, and like you really do want to see, because I mean he went nuts, played 25 minutes, 34 fantasy points there. He had kind of a strange spot here the last couple of games. His usage has been up 23, 26, 25% usage in 3 of the last 4, but like you're looking at some of these rotations, Fontecchio, somebody who can actually knock down shots from time to time. You've got a massive usage hog in Colin Sexton just playing more minutes. You get Jordan Clarkson there. I would also say Chris Dunn is probably somebody else that I'm happy to get away from. The minutes are really hard to peg down on what he's going to be on a day-to-day basis. 27-17 last 2. He is only 3,900 with point guard, small forward, which makes me feel uncomfortable about that one. But right now I have 0% John Collins because I do think this is just one of those spots where if he puts up 30, do I really even need that at 5K? I think there's going to be better stuff coming up later. And I don't see 30-minute type upside for him in pretty much any spot, considering Walker Kessler, still somebody that they want to have out on the floor. Kelly Olynyk can cut into just about anybody's time there at the 4 and 5. So yeah, it's probably John Collins for me.
And then I want to ask Rich something. Rich, if you wouldn't mind unmuting yourself. And Jordan, let's put Rich up on screen, where this is a team in Utah that none of us have been playing a ton of lately, right, Rich? Because it's a team that runs a very deep rotation. They've been very good since running this deep rotation as well. So the minutes are spread thin, but this is a slate that at least as of now doesn't have a whole bunch of value. So people are playing a lot of the Utah Jazz because the prices have come down and they have the great matchup against the Washington Wizards. Which players, though, would you say that you think have the flimsiest minutes projections of the chalk, Rich? So a guy who's projected for a lot of ownership that might end up playing like 20 minutes.
Is it between both teams or just were you talking about Utah?
Yeah, just the Utah side.
Okay. I think the most volatile one would probably be John Collins. He's not projected for a ton of minutes at 24, but he's pretty chalky and he could play 20, 21, and then Olynyk or even Kessler maybe gets a couple more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good to know. And I think that's useful. That sort of stuff is always useful information, especially for people in the Discord who are using the data and the Sims tools who maybe they don't recognize that somebody's minutes, if they're a little bit uncertain, you might not want to be getting to, like 80% of John Collins. Not saying that's what the data is spitting out, but useful to know which minutes projections have a little bit more volatility to them, which I look at the Utah Jazz, the team that has a lot of volatility in a lot of their minutes projections, because that's kind of how it has gone. But one other thing I want to ask you, Rich, and then we'll do the nuke of the night here for Eric and myself, and then we'll get back to everybody's questions, is which player from the Utah Jazz that isn't picking up as much ownership do you think could present the most upside? And you could answer nobody. You don't.
You did call Fontecchio from the Clouds the other day, but now he's 4,100, I suppose. But wanted to give you the shout out because 3,600 for him, that was useful 2 slates ago.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing too, is that they're all pulling like 20% ownership or more, other than Fontecchio and Keontae, and both those guys are fine too. Fontecchio could get hot; he could easily crush his price tag. Keontae George could play a couple extra minutes off the bench, maybe overperform those minutes. He could put up a decent score as well. Yeah, everyone else is so owned on Utah. Like Agbaji, I'm not even interested in, even though he's dirt cheap. I mean, maybe get to a couple and 150 or something, but he's not really that playable. The one thing I do want to say though about this matchup is like it's weird to me that Utah is so chalky, and then you look at Washington's projected ownership, and there's nothing. There's barely one guy. There's one guy over 10%. And I actually really like this matchup overall. If you look at Utah's games, I mean, they've been scoring like 130 points or more. It's almost like an all-star game if you look at it like that. So if you're going to be eating up the Utah chalk, you should try to maybe not force like strict, but maybe give some boost to guys from Washington to make sure they're getting in some lineups too.
Yeah, hey, I think Jordan Poole, only 2% ownership on Jordan.
I love Poole.
He's got upside to him, Jordan Poole. It doesn't show itself all that often, but we know it's there. But let's try to find some of those upside plays right now. So Jordan, play the animation. Everybody wants to see Eric's dick get blown off. Hit it. Nuke of the nighttime, fellas. Yeehaw. Nuke time. Eric, this is the favorite thing that you do every single day. You live and breathe the nuke of the night. You're obsessed with it. It's all you think about is how can I create the best nuke of the night play? Because he knows that it always wins because he spends so much time thinking about the nuke of the night. So Eric, who are you going with today? Who's the nuke of the night?
Yeah, I would trade in my 30K just to have another nuke of the night win. That's really all that I care about is just getting these nuke of the nights correct. But we'll say it's a fun bit, and it's going to be really fun today when Kobe White goes completely ballistic for the Chicago Bulls. It's the late game. And I will say there's a little bit of a game theory element to this where if you get LeBron sitting, there's an opportunity to turn that into guard spots. And we're going to have some Malik Monk in Sacramento. It's such an interesting late swap slate because we're not going to get this news more than likely before lock about Anthony Davis and LeBron James. So I'm going to be backloading quite a few of my lineups. Not all of them. Obviously going to still have some Utah sprinkled amongst them. Hard to get away from it entirely. But I really like getting the guard eligibility, point guard only here, of Kobe White. You could turn that into D'Angelo Russell if LeBron sits. But Kobe White playing right around 38, 40 minutes a night here every single time out. Came a rebound away from an assist away from crushing my hopes and dreams with the triple-double last slate that he appeared there against Phoenix. But he's just playing so many minutes, 7,600, and there's still going to be no Levine there. He's still, sharing the floor with DeMar DeRozan and Vucevic, but they've been in a pretty good pick and roll sync of late. Like there were a lot of really dump off freebies for Vooch, and Kobe White's just been playing really good ball, shoots it over 40% from three, and only had a 17% usage with that smash last time out. So lots of reasons, lots of ways that Kobe White can get there for you. And he gives you ultimate swappability, just being overweight to just an 8% of him, as opposed to just the DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Williams, Vooch that are the ones pulling the double-digit ownership here. So nuke of the night, under-owned Kobe White. Don't be surprised if that turns into other stuff later, but as of right now, I'd be okay getting stuck with that in my lineups.
I have one that I've got my eyes on here, Eric.
I'm ready.
It is bounce back time. This guy didn't suck the other day when he was a chalky option, but there were some promising signs for our guy Precious Achiuwa.
Oh boy.
Just lost minutes to Jericho Sims because for no reason at all, Jericho Sims played well. For no reason at all, Jericho Sims played well in the first half. Jericho Sims averages like 7 fantasy points as a starter for the entire season. Yep. We got Isaiah Hartenstein out again tonight. I don't think the minutes for Jericho Sims are going to be the same. This is why. Second half of the game, we saw the Knicks go to Precious Achiuwa fairly early in the third quarter, and they just let him play the rest of the game because Jericho Sims is terrible. In the first half, Jericho Sims got more of the minutes. You know why? Because he played well. But do you know when that happens, Eric? Basically never. It was the first time it's ever happened that Jericho Sims has played well. So Jericho Sims coming into that game had 2 blocks the entire season. I think he blocked 4 shots in the first quarter. Massive outlier performance, but because he played so well, the Knicks just rode Jericho Sims in the first half, and Precious Achiuwa played 6 first half minutes in that game. He still finished with 20-plus fantasy points because he ended up closing the game for the Knicks because Jericho Sims turned back into Jericho Sims. I think we see Achiuwa play the bulk of the center minutes tonight as opposed to Sims. So that's the contrarian play that I like quite a bit. I think Precious Achiuwa gets those center minutes back for New York.
Oh boy, man, that is, if that ends up panning out. My one concern is obviously Jokic, where, I mean, again, it's so dumb to just say, oh, how tall are they? What's the size? But like, I feel like Precious has always been like an undersized 5, like a more of a 4 that didn't really shoot. Let me pull this up here quick because I am just curious. I do want to work through this a little bit. He played the whole first quarter was wild because he had like 3 or 4 blocks in that first quarter, did Jericho Sims, and he is terrible. But yeah, he's 6'9", 250. So it's not like you're getting a whole lot of size out of him. Precious Achiuwa, 6'9", 225. Both of them are going to get completely demolished by Jokic, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, I'm gonna join you on a little bit of that. I had like 4% of him. I'm gonna give a little bit of a boost there.
Yeah, so that's gonna be my guy that I like as a contrarian option. And Rich, not to put you on the spot here, but I'm gonna put you on the spot. Do you have a nuke of the night for yourself? And it's whatever parameters you want it to be. If it's a chalk player you like, that's cool. If it's a pay up option you like, that's cool. If it's control, whatever way you want to go, who are you considering the nuke of the night for yourself?
All right, so Patrick Beverley just got ruled as a starter. He started for Philly. So he's probably going to pull a ton of ownership. I'm not going to pick him, though, because that's an easy one, I feel like. I'm not saying he was going to nuke, but obviously people are getting there already. I'm actually going with like a contrarian nuke of the night in Jordan Poole. Go on the opposite side of that chalky Utah, and hopefully Jordan Poole gets hot and nukes.
All right. Yeah. Hey, Jordan Poole was somebody I was considering, and I had a feeling you might go that way because I saw how your eyes lit up when I mentioned Jordan Poole before. But I agree with you, man. I think that's somebody who's definitely worth considering in tournaments, Jordan Poole. So some nuke of the nights there. And guys, we haven't done yet. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you want to sign up for any of the tools and packages we have at stokastic.com, there's links below. Not only do you get the data, tools, projections, ownership projections, you also get access to all of us in the Discord channel. And stuff like last night, we were hanging out in there all night talking about the late swaps and what I was doing to change my lineups. And then even today, we debated those lineup changes ever since I woke up until now. It's still been going on. So if you guys want access to the Discord channel, sign up for any of the memberships that we have below. I want to circle back on Sean's super chat because he asked for my favorite plays at each position. And now I feel like this is a little bit cleaner for me because that I was able to run an updated set of lineups. So I'm going to have to do it again now that Patrick Beverley's starting. I think I'm going to get to quite a bit of Beverley. So I'm going to go with point guard for myself. I think that's going to end up being Patrick Beverley. Shooting guard, I am going to have Colin Sexton. So there's still Utah guys that I'm getting to a lot, Eric. I just muted their projection, their ownership a little bit in my lineups where I gave like a flat -20 to -30% ROI boost to Utah players. And then as a result, it just got me too less. I'm not taking them out, but it does lessen the amount of exposure I have to Utah players. So shooting guard, I'm going to go with Colin Sexton. Small forward for me, that is going to be Patrick Williams. I know you mentioned liking Patrick Williams as well. I want to be trying to get to some Bulls guys for the added flexibility in tonight's slate as well. Power forward, that is still going to be Kelly Olynyk for me. In center, Joel Embiid. I am getting to quite a bit of Joel Embiid, Eric.
Yeah, it is definitely something that's changed for me a little bit here. We got the normal starting five for Utah, normal starting five from the Pacers as well. Just kind of working through the news here in the early games. We kind of have a blitzkrieg of games here, the first five just being all within half an hour. And then we just kind of sit and wait for the Lakers news. Yep. So it's kind of a wild slate in that regard. But Joel Embiid was somebody that I didn't really know what I was going to be getting to. And now if I'm going to be getting to Precious at 4,500, Patrick Beverley 4,500, I am going to get to a lot of Joel Embiid. Again, it was kind of not an all or nothing thing for me. I was planning on being a little bit underweight, but now it would appear that we have value, that I feel a little bit better about, that isn't just 3K guys that are playing 16 minutes for Utah, hoping that somehow they play 20 plus, but I am far more inclined to be getting there now.
Very, very rude of the Philadelphia 76ers to drop their starting lineup, but we're in the middle of our precious nuke of the night segment. But now that Patrick Beverley is starting, is he somebody who's going to be a priority for you? I obviously haven't been able to rerun lineups, but I have a feeling I'm going to get to quite a bit of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's starting against Indy. I mean, this is one of those things. And also, he's not a guy that has to play, like, it has to get a ton of usage. Like, he's a 0.8 fantasy point per minute guy. So I don't want to go completely batshit crazy with like jamming him by any means. But like, the minutes have such a high point, and like, they've played condensed rotations. Think of how many times we've been like, oh, is KJ Martin viable here? Is Danwell House viable here? Like, we've been looking at trying to find some kind of value there. Maybe you still get some shots of those guys in there, but like, Patrick Beverley should absorb a lot of those minutes.
And now, Rich, I'll bring you back in. I assume this is going to be the last piece of news we get before lock, but Rich was very quick to update projection. In fact, it looked like he had him pushed updates
like
going as he was doing his nuke of the night. A man of many talents here. He's got a nuke of the night while updating projections at the same time. Rich, I see that we have Patrick Beverley in for just under 30 minutes, making one of the top overall value plays on the slate. So what is it that you like or dislike about the Philadelphia 76ers starting lineup, and how strong does that make Patrick Beverley look as a value option?
All right, so Patrick Beverley starting, they're really like thin at quality guards. If you look at their lineup, I mean, Furk and Korkmaz, they don't seem to ever want to play unless like everyone is out. Jaden Springer's back, so he could pull some minutes, but this is his first game back. I don't think he's going to play a ton. Patrick Beverley plays good defense. Indiana has Nembhard, TJ McConnell, and other good scoring guards. So I think he just fits like multiple Philadelphia lineups and rotations. Yeah, there's just not many places to go on Philadelphia tonight. A lot of their guys are out that normally get minutes.
Yeah, and I think something Eric said that rings very true here as well, which is Patrick Beverley isn't the best fantasy producer in the world, but it's a great matchup against the Indiana Pacers, and 0.8 fantasy points against the Pacers. Well, now you're talking about a guy who, you boost that up and then maybe it becomes just off my head, like, a 0.9 fantasy point per minute producer. He's fairly cheap. It's a slate where the value we were getting to was Jazz guys. It's not like Patrick Beverley projects all that much different from those sorts of guys. So good piece of chalk in Patrick Beverley, somebody I think we should be getting to for tonight. So let's go ahead and follow up on more of these super chats. Then we'll go into Discord channel, see what some of the questions are in there as well. But first, Malcolm Revamp. Malcolm Revamp wants you to show the sims for both sites. So if you wouldn't mind running them for him and then throwing it up on screen, do it for FanDuel and DraftKings with the updated Patrick Beverley news. And then over at 14, I love this question. If there was only one Utah Jazz player that he wanted to play, who'd be one? You could only play one player from Utah for single entry. Who'd you go with, Eric?
Colin Sexton.
I think it's Olynyk for me.
What? No.
I'm going to go with Kelly Olynyk.
What? How much Olynyk are you playing tonight?
I don't know. I have to rerun lineups.
Oh, God. Well, that's not helpful to him then. I mean, one lineup. I'm not playing the guy that I don't see 20 minutes out of. I'm just not doing that in the first game, knowing that there's news that can break and that, like, I don't want to go completely crazy here with this, but I am contemplating something else from Like, is Jaden, he's going to be, I'm having a tough time figuring out if there's something else that I want to do from Philadelphia. But anyway, just talking about Utah, if I'm playing one piece, it's definitely Colin Sexton for me. Who would it be for you, Rich?
One piece from Utah. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you, Eric. I think it'd be Colin Sexton. He's been playing great, and they, for whatever reason, DraftKings just refuses to price him up to like a 7K range, which I think is probably where he should be, given on how he's played for what, like the last 7 or 8 games.
Not only that, the usage is outrageous for him right now. Like, you don't see sub 7K guys playing like 30 minutes that are getting this kind of usage unless they're Cam Thomas, and Cam Thomas is useless at everything besides scoring. They've played some really wonky game scripts. They lost by infinity to the Pelicans. They ran out a little bit there, but like there's 35-minute upside. There's such a right tail on Colin Sexton that even though he's chalky, he could just like completely bury you. I don't really feel that way about any of the value from Utah, if you know what I mean.
I do like Olynyk too, Greg. That'd probably be number 2 for me.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I have to rerun my lineups. Before, when I had the last set of my lineups run, Sexton was my most roster Jazz player, and second was Olynyk. So I'm about to rerun everything now. My gut feeling is that some of my Colin Sexton lineups are going to become Patrick Beverley, whereas none of the value we got from Philadelphia is going to impact Kelly Olynyk. It's one of those two guys for me, either Sexton or Olynyk. I think both of them are pretty serviceable options for the slate. But either way, while we're at 14, also, I don't think you should have to only limit yourself to one player from the Utah Jazz. Like, I don't want to go insanely crazy with Utah Jazz exposure, but that doesn't mean I have to cap myself to one player in those lineups. Riley Cooper, 14. Any Marvin Bagley, the third love?
No.
Yeah, it is no longer bag alert time. So here's what's different about Marvin Bagley now compared to when we were jamming Marvin Bagley before. And it's pretty simple. Daniel Gafford's back. When Daniel Gafford was out, they had no bigs to play other than Marvin Bagley. Now that we have Gafford back, it's going to be like 28 minutes going to Gafford, 24 Marvin Bagley, somewhere around those marks.
Mm-hmm. You had massive foul trouble for Daniel Gafford yesterday. If you wanted to know why Marvin Bagley ended up getting the lion's share and smashing, that's not going to be the norm. Daniel Gafford is going to get the lion's share when he doesn't go completely hack-a-shack on the world.
Let's see what the next question is. It is from R. Gravy, wants to know top 3 Utah priorities, and then also thoughts on Daniel House Jr. So Daniel House, I don't find to be a necessary piece to get to on the slate, especially if you're only playing one lineup. Like, House would not be somebody who's in that for me. Top 3 Utah priorities, though, Eric. So we got the question about our number 1 Utah priority. So I know that Sexton's going to be one of them for you. For me, I'm going to go Sexton, Olynyk. I'll have to think about who the third is. But Eric, top 3 players for you to get to from the Utah Jazz.
Sexton, Clarkson, Markkanen.
Okay. I'm going to go with Markkanen as my third. So Sexton, Olynyk, Markkanen. And also what's great about Markkanen is, let's say players get ruled out earlier in the night. I'm not going to be upset that extra value opens up and I Lauri Markkanen in lineups. Whereas if there is a ton of value that opens up later, I would be like, maybe I wish I had less of the Utah cheap guys, not as much about a pay up option like Lauri Markkanen though. So that is something that's different about the pay up options as opposed to the lower cost ones. Then also is he's the only expensive guy to get to on the Utah Jazz. So those are the 3 for me. Let's get into the Discord questions now. And once again, if you guys haven't done it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Kapanikella is asking us who our favorite single entry play on the entire slate is. Eric, do you have one single entry play that you like above all the others?
So I'm just thinking like not Nuke of the Night. Kobe White obviously gives you like the ability to move that around. I mean, I probably wouldn't play single entry today without Colin Sexton, or I mean, I'm starting to like fall back into getting to just tons and tons of Joel Embiid. So like I know they're super, super chalky, but like I think they're super, super great.
It also certainly helps Joel Embiid that it's Patrick Beverley who's starting. Like that is not a usage guy. And the ceiling for Joel Embiid is the ceiling for Joel Embiid. It's tremendous no matter what, no matter who is going to be starting.
Tremendous ceiling. Huge ceiling. The biggest
the starting
ceiling.
Lineup went from Tobias Harris to Patrick Beverley.
Yep.
that's a big dip in usage. And then you figure out where it's going to go. It's going to go to Tobias. It's going to go from Tobias Harris now to Joel Embiid to Tyrese Maxey. So I think that's a way that we should be looking on the slate. Already like Joel Embiid, but now even more so. We got another super chat from Chris Albers, and then we'll get back to the Discord questions. He's asking us, Fontecchio, Olynyk, or Precious? He could only play 2. I'm going to say Precious and Olynyk.
Precious and Olynyk.
Back into Discord, and the next question is from Einsteinium. Not really a question, more of a comment. Einsteinium says he wants to borrow the Bink extension that I have on the Sims tool, which, yeah, there's a Bink button. I just press it every night, and that's what's helped me win this year. The Bink button. It's like the old Staples. That was
easy. The funny thing about the Bink button is it's located on my, if you know the quote.
Which on the well, you edited yourself out. Now I'm curious.
It did. My big toe. That's what I was getting at. It's
located
professional show.
Right in the middle of his taint. That's the Bink button on Eric.
God, honestly, Superbad is one of the greatest movies that has ever been and ever will be.
Next question that we have in here is from Rico Rod 1980, who wants to know who my favorite players are at each position for FanDuel. Yes, so point guard, Patrick Beverley. Do you have FanDuel lineups or just DraftKings?
Nope, I only played DraftKings today.
Yeah, I'm only playing on DraftKings, but I built FanDuel lineups.
I didn't, I'm a jerk.
I also saw this question, so I ran new ones once we got Patrick Beverley starting. So Beverley at point guard, Oubre at shooting guard, small forward, Lauri Markkanen, power forward, Kyle Kuzma, center, Joel Embiid tonight. And now we've got Nate Meg Official. Nate Meg Official. Favorite for tiers tonight? Yes, I'll pull tiers back up. So for tiers, actually, I'm curious if anything's changed since Beverley started. I doubt it, but I'll look into it here. Joel Embiid in tier 1. Tier 2, Jason Tatum, all the same so far. Tier 3, Tyrese Maxey, also still the same. Tier 4, Lauri Markkanen. Tier 5, DeMar DeRozan. Tier 6, Colin Sexton. So yeah, I don't think that's anything different from what I had before. Thank you for the super chat, Nate Meg Official. Then Sunflower says, what are our projected minutes for Chris Dunn and Colin Sexton? Jordan, do you mind pulling the projections, putting them up on screen? Sunflower wants to know minutes projections for Chris Dunn and Colin Sexton. Let's see. We have... Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. So while that's still running, I'll pull up the projections here and I will read it off for him. So for Sunflower, the minutes on Chris Dunn, we have him for 19 and a half. And Colin Sexton, we have in for 30 minutes. Those are our minutes projections on the backcourt players there for the Utah Jazz. And then R Gravy says, are we thinking AD or LeBron sit? Also wants to know thoughts on Monk for DK. I think Monk is a serviceable option as a last man in, not anybody who's like a real priority. My best guess, I think that AD sits and LeBron plays. Eric, what is your official guess on the Los Angeles Lakers?
Anthony Davis plays. I'm the opposite of you. I'm the opposite of you.
Not with confidence. I am.
There you go.
It's an injury report situation. This isn't like, there's no sims for the injury reports. I'm just putting my best guess out there.
Yeah, I'm putting my guess out that, LeBron sat last time, which isn't a normal thing. And we did get that news a lot earlier in the day last time. So I will say that makes me a little bit suspect. Also, I'm getting to a lot more TJ McConnell than I was expecting. So that's a thing. But I am pretty sure that one of the two plays, if they both sit, my God, help us all.
Yeah. If they both sit, there's a ton of value, which is why before we got the single entry question. And I mean, a guy that I like in single entry is Patrick Williams, because it's going to create extra swappability for us.
Yep.
The guy who's later. And if we get extra value, it opens up for the Lakers. It's pretty easy to convert Patrick Williams into a Lakers value piece. Let's see what else we have as far as questions go. Flim Flam Man 67 wants to know 2 highest owned Jazz players. That for me, I believe, is going to be Kelly Olynyk and Colin Sexton.
It is definitely for me, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen.
Next.
And then Clarkson I like second most, but I'm not getting to as much of him as I was thinking.
Let me see. I have everything. Yeah. All right. Running one more sim in here. One more sim.
Yep, me too. I'm doing one more for the old Gipper. For EMAC, that is.
K Sizzle wants to know, this is a different way to look at the Utah Jazz. And also a shout out to SC, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships there. So we've got here, K Sizzle wants to know, how much Jazz should K Sizzle be playing in cash games? What is the maximum amount of Jazz players for cash? So different way to look at Utah. Eric. How do you feel about them in cash relative to tournaments?
Well, I mean, Beverly probably changed the equation to some extent because, I mean, that's a guard. And then are you just going to play everybody from this first game? Because that's, I mean, that's kind of where it's leaning at. I would be playing Sexton in cash. I'd be playing Olynyk in cash. I would probably be playing Lauri Markkanen in cash, but I don't know that for sure. I'm not playing cash today. I just crunched my top projected here and tell you here. I would be playing 4 Jazz in cash.
Do you have an issue with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey being in the same lineups?
No, but I mean, that is obviously a lot of salary you're allocating, but it's 8,600 Maxey. I mean, this guy is 9K with a ton of upside here on the other side. This game should be played at ludicrous speed for all you Spaceballs fans out there, but I'm pretty okay with it. Not thrilled. If you're building out by hand, go ahead and maybe move it around a little bit, but yeah. My cash lineup right now would be like all early games, and that would feel pretty weird. But I think right.
A massive issue with it for cash games because of how high the ownership is on some of those spots.
Correct.
I would just block out the field. Let's see. So the 2 games we have locking early, for a reference for everybody, it is the Philadelphia Indiana game and then Utah Washington.
Yep.
Next question here is M. Grizzly wants to know which guys am I most overweight to and underweight to for tournaments. All right, so let me sort by the leverage column in the Sims because I just reran lineups. Who did I come in overweight to? So, I mean, I've got a shit ton of Patrick Beverly. He's projected to be popular, but not crazy popular. So Beverly, I'm well overweight to.
Same.
Let's see. Who else am I just like way overweight to? Yeah, so Beverly, I'm getting to a lot of Kelly Oubre and Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams is only projected for 15% ownership, but less to do with Patrick Williams, more to do with the situation of them playing the Lakers and guys being questionable. Who are you most overweight to tonight, Eric?
Patrick Beverly, I'm with you there. I don't know how popular he ends up getting. News did come out a little bit later. I know we've seen some extreme situations, but it's not like he's 3,500. He is 4,500. I'm not sure if people are going to just like feel the same way about him. Colin Sexton, I am overweight to, for sure. I am overweight to Patrick Williams, to Malik Monk, to a lot of those late pieces, Alex Caruso. I'm giving myself a lot of swapability late.
And then who are you underweight to?
I am underweight to Chris Dunn, to John Collins. I have 0 of. Again, that is just not going to be me today. I am underweight to, I'm just working through this. I am underweight to anybody else like of note here. I'm underweight to Kelly Oubre a little bit. I think he's getting pretty heavily jammed here. I feel like I shouldn't be, but maybe I should change that here in the next couple minutes. But I am underweight to who's the other one that was pretty pronounced? Kelly. I'm on the opposite end of Kelly Olynyk than you guys.
All right, so
I have no Kelly in 40 lineups.
This is going to be my final set of lineups here. Who am I underweight to? I am underweight to Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is a piece of chalk I don't get to, as well as Denny Avdi, not projected for like a ton of ownership, but he is projected for ownership in the teens. And that's not a spot that I really want to be using too much of my lineup space on here. So that's where I'm going for underweight players. Let me go back to make sure that there weren't any super chats that came in. Oh, here's one. DC24, last man in on DK, Dinwiddie or Oubre? Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, I needed to fix something with Kelly Oubre. I made a mistake there, so I am fixing it, and then we will carry on our merry way. Yeah, I got a little bit of Kelly Oubre.
Due to Future left us a super chat, but there is no question. So let me see if I could find a message that he might have left in chat. I don't see anything. Zach to the Future, if you have a question, just throw it into the YouTube chat and I will answer it. Let's see what we have here from Mbach005. Will Korkmaz, Pat Bev, or Daniel House be in play due to Harris and Morris being out? Yeah, Patrick Beverly, definitely the best guy to get to from Philly, as far as those guys you mentioned.
Correct.
Eric M, best value play for DK single entry. That is Patrick Beverly for me now.
Yep, I'm getting to lots of him. All right. We are uploading these. We are just 77.5 Patrick Beverley. And that's going to be an enjoyable sweat early. Joy. Joy.
Want it really quick. Just
value under 4K besides Utah. There's not a lot of it right now. It could end up having a $3,900 Jared Vanderbilt later. That is not for certain yet, but we will be in the premium Discord chatting it up. Hopefully can help you out with that as it arrives. But under 4K, what was Keontae George's final price tag? But I guess he's Utah, so that doesn't help you. Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of it. Jared Vanderbilt would be like somebody to consider there. Christian Wood as well, just pending how everything pans out.
I'll say Christian Wood, understanding that you're taking a chance on Anthony Davis and or LeBron sitting, because if they both play, you're not going to want to get to Christian Wood. R Gravy on DK, Maxey and Sabonis or Embiid and 4,300 for utility. I'm going to say Maxey and Sabonis.
Yeah, Maxey Sabonis.
And let me just double check to make sure there weren't any super chats. If not, we'll just hammer out more of
love
questions here in Discord. Steve G, most amount of Utah players in a lineup tonight, 4.
Yep, 4.
And then we've got a question from IC50. What is the average amount of Utah players per lineup? About 2, I think it is for me, is on average, like 2.5.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm uploading my lineups for right now. I think the average is about 2.5. I don't know the exact, but it's somewhere. I feel pretty good saying it's somewhere around that mark. Next question that we have here is from just Tim Lee saying hi. Hi, Tim.
Hi, hello.
Christy, thoughts on Oubre for DK GPP? Stands to gain extra minutes with Tobias Harris out, and there's extra usage to go around in the lineup. So for sure, Joel Embiid, Patrick Beverley, and Tyrese Maxey are higher priorities, but Oubre is a very strong tournament option. I like getting to him a good amount. Marquee Sports, Precious Achua, or Patrick Williams.
Achua. Sorry.
All right. So there's 30 seconds left in the show. Eric is not allowed to talk anymore.
Okay.
Marquee Sports, I'm going to go with Patrick Williams just to give yourself the extra flexibility. Einsteinium wants to know, is Tyler Hero somebody we should be getting exposure to? Not really as of now. I don't think he's somebody who's needed. What did I get to for Tyler Hero? Yeah, I don't think Tyler Hero is somebody who is really necessary. Did you play much of Tyler Hero? Look at this. This is a good employee. He knows how to take directions. So one thing that's really going to hurt Tyler Hero going forward is just the fact that Miami now has Terry Rozier to play minutes and take shots from other guys. And that is going to do it for us. So for everybody who's watching, if you haven't done it, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you want to sign up at Sleeper, which is right over Eric's left shoulder, the nice Sleeper logo there, you sign up for the first time, you're getting a deposit bonus offer and access to a free square, over 0.5 points for Jason Tatum. So take advantage of that. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Good luck on the slate tonight, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Peace out.